New Zealand to ban greyhound racing, what it means for us as equestrians. On December the 10th, 2024, I came across a headline that caught my attention. New Zealand to ban greyhound racing. The article explained that an unacceptably high rate of injuries led to this decision. Racing Minister Winston Peters stated, "This is not a decision that has been taken lightly, but is ultimately driven by protecting the welfare of racing dogs." The SPCA has since called on other countries to follow suit. But what does this have to do with us? And more importantly, what does it have to do with horses? Imagine for a moment that you're not part of the horse world. You're simply a compassionate, well-meaning person who cares about animal welfare. How might you react if you overheard someone discussing the new whip they'd bought for their horse? Or if someone casually described their horse as rude or awkward after it had thrown them off? What would you think if you saw a child attaching spurs to their heels and digging them into a horse that was visibly reluctant to cooperate? Even as a horse person, these scenarios might make you pause. Or perhaps, like many of us, you've been exposed to these practices for so long that they've become normalised. I know a whip and spurs can be used appropriately, as tools to guide and refine. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't often see them used in ways that, to an outsider, might look harsh or even abusive. After all, we wouldn't dream of using a whip or spurs on a dog or a child. So what makes it acceptable for a horse? The truth is, I don't have the answers. But I often wonder if normalisation blinds us to practices that others might find deeply uncomfortable. I recently listened to an animal welfare specialist discussing zoo animals. Research has shown that the general public often has a more accurate perception of animal welfare than zookeepers, precisely because the public hasn't become desensitised to questionable practices over time. The ban on greyhound racing was ultimately driven by public pressure, fuelled by an awareness of unacceptable injury rates and welfare issues. If we, as equestrians, don't start addressing the many normalised but problematic practices in our industry, might we one day face a similar reckoning? The choice is ours, to act now, before others force us to change. For the sake of the horses we love, it's a conversation we can no longer afford to ignore. I'm Sue Palmer, the horse physio. To support my work, please go to my website and subscribe to my free newsletter. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you sharing your time with me.